Ethan Miller was the kind of boy no one really noticed. He sat in the last row of his classroom, always quiet, always looking out the window instead of paying attention. His notebooks were filled with half-written thoughts and drawings he never showed to anyone. In a world where the loudest voices were heard, Ethan's silence made him invisible. Most of the time, he liked it that way. Being invisible meant nobody judged him, nobody laughed when he spoke the wrong word, and nobody cared when he stayed alone at lunch. Still, deep down, Ethan wanted something more. He wanted to feel seen. He wanted anyone to believe he had something inside him worth sharing. One afternoon, his English teacher, Mrs. Anderson, kept him behind after class. She was in her 50s, gentle but sharp, the kind of teacher who seemed to know what her students carried inside their hearts. Ethan froze when she called his name, thinking maybe he had done something wrong. But instead of scolding him, she reached into her desk drawer and pulled out an old, leather-bound book. Its cover was worn, the edges torn, but it looked precious, like it had been held by many hands before his. She placed it on his desk and smiled. "Ethan," she said softly, "this book, it's special. I think you should read it. You might find something inside that belongs to you." Ethan stared at her, confused. "Why me?" he asked. Mrs. Anderson only smiled again, as if she knew something he didn't. "Sometimes, the right book finds the right person. Take it home. Read it when you're ready." That night, Ethan sat at his small desk in his room, the book resting in front of him. The house was quiet. His parents worked late, so no one was around to ask questions. He opened the cover carefully, almost afraid the old pages might tear. The first line made him sit up straight. "Inside every silent heart lives a fire waiting to be seen." The words pulled at something inside him. He kept reading, page after page, until hours had passed. The book wasn't just filled with stories. It was filled with lessons about courage, about dreams, about love, and about the power of one person's voice. The words didn't just sit on the page. They seemed to whisper directly into his soul. For the first time, Ethan felt awake. The next day at school, something strange happened. He didn't hide in the last row like always. Instead, he raised his hand during class. His voice trembled when he answered a question, but Mrs. Anderson's eyes lit up, proud and encouraging. A few students turned to look at him, surprised that he had even spoken at all. At lunch, he sat under a tree with the book in his hands. While reading, he scribbled thoughts in his notebook, his own words mixed with what he learned from the book. His handwriting was shaky, but his ideas were clear. He didn't know why, but he felt like he was writing pieces of himself for the first time. That was when someone noticed him. Emma Carter, one of the most admired girls in school, walked by with her friends. She was confident, bright, and seemed to belong everywhere Ethan didn't. Normally, he would have looked away, but the book distracted him. A paper slipped from his notebook and fell to the ground just as Emma passed. She picked it up before he could. Her eyes ran over the words. "Even in the darkest night, a single light can guide someone home." Emma looked at him with surprise. "Did you write this?" she asked. Ethan froze. His heart beat faster. Yeah," he admitted quietly. For a moment, she just stared at him, like she was seeing him for the very first time. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Then she handed the paper back, smiling. "You should share this with people." Ethan didn't know what to say. His face burned with embarrassment, but also with something else, hope. For the first time, someone outside of Mrs. Anderson had seen a piece of his heart, and they hadn't laughed. They had liked it. That night, he opened the book again. As he turned the pages, something new caught his eye. At the bottom of one page, faintly written in faded ink, were words that didn't look like they were part of the original text. Pass this to the one who is ready to change the world. Ethan's breath caught. He touched the words, tracing them with his fingers. Who had written them? And why did it feel like they were meant for him? His life had always been small, quiet, invisible. But now, with this book in his hands, he felt the beginning of something bigger. Something was shifting inside him. And he couldn't shake the feeling that his teacher had known this all along. The next morning, as Ethan walked to school with the book hidden safely in his backpack, he didn't realize yet that his world was about to change. That a single choice to open a book would lead him to love, courage, and a destiny far greater than he ever imagined. The next few days at school felt different for Ethan Miller. The hallways, which once felt like endless gray walls, now seemed alive. People still didn't notice him much, but inside, he felt something changing. The book's words echoed in his heart, giving him courage in small ways. He started writing more short lines of hope, small pieces of poetry, and thoughts he had never dared to share before. His notebook, once empty, now filled with words that felt like little sparks of light. One afternoon, while Ethan was writing under the tree again, Emma Carter walked over. He froze. Usually, people like her never spoke twice to people like him. But here she was, holding her lunch tray, her smile warm. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. Ethan blinked, then quickly moved his books aside. Sure." Emma sat down gracefully, brushing her blonde hair behind her ear. For a moment, there was silence. Then she nodded at the notebook in his hands. "You write every day?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. It helps me think." She tilted her head. "Can I see more?" Every part of him wanted to say no. His words were private, his safe place. But something in Emma's eyes made him trust her. Slowly, he handed the notebook over. She flipped through the pages, reading quietly. Her expression softened as she read line after line. Finally, she closed the notebook gently and looked at him. "Ethan, these are amazing. You see the world differently. It's like, you notice things nobody else does." Ethan's cheeks turned red. "They're just words." "No," she said firmly. "They're not just words. They're powerful." She leaned closer. "You should share them with more people." Her confidence startled him. He wasn't used to someone believing in him. Not like this. For the rest of the week, Emma began joining him under the tree. They talked at first about the book, then about life, dreams, and little things that made them laugh. Slowly, Ethan began to feel less invisible. But not everyone liked what they saw. Jason Reed, the popular athlete, noticed Emma spending time with Ethan. Jason had always been protective of Emma, though she never gave him the attention he wanted. Seeing her laugh with Ethan filled him with jealousy. One afternoon in the cafeteria, Jason walked past Ethan's table and snatched his notebook. "What's this?" Jason smirked, flipping it open. "Love poems. Oh man, listen to this, guys." He started reading aloud in a mocking voice. The cafeteria erupted with laughter. Ethan's face burned with humiliation. He wanted to grab the notebook back, but his legs felt frozen. Before he could move, Emma stood up. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the laughter. "Jason, give it back." Jason blinked, surprised. "Come on, Emma. This is funny." "It's not funny," she said firmly, stepping closer. "He's brave for writing his thoughts down. You should try it sometime, instead of making fun of others." The cafeteria grew quiet. Jason, embarrassed, tossed the notebook onto the table and stormed off. Ethan picked it up with trembling hands. His throat felt tight. No one had ever defended him like that before. When lunch ended, he walked with Emma outside. "Why did you do that?" he asked quietly. "Because, She said simply, "You don't deserve to be laughed at. You deserve to be heard." Her words stayed with him long into the night. Later, when he opened the book again, he noticed something he hadn't before. On one of the older pages, faint ink marks appeared in the corner like a hidden message. Carefully, he held the book under his lamp. The faded words read, "When the world doubts you, believe anyway. The fire inside you is enough." Ethan's heart raced. Were these words part of the book, or had someone written them long ago? He couldn't tell. But either way, they came at the perfect moment. The next day, during English class, Mrs. Anderson asked for volunteers to read their writing. Normally, Ethan would never raise his hand. But this time, he remembered Emma's words. He remembered the hidden message. His hand lifted slowly, almost on its own. The class went silent as he stood up, notebook in hand. His voice shook at first, but as he read, the words flowed out of him. He spoke about hope, about finding light in dark places, about courage hidden inside ordinary people. When he finished, the room was silent, not with mockery, but with awe. Then, slowly, students began clapping. Ethan sat down, his face red but his heart alive. Emma leaned over and whispered, "See? I told you. You're not invisible anymore." Ethan smiled shyly. For the first time in his life, he believed her. But as he closed his notebook that day, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The book in his bag wasn't just guiding him. It was leading him somewhere bigger, towards something he didn't yet understand. And deep down, a quiet question burned in his mind: why him? Why had Mrs. Anderson chosen him for the book? The answer, he felt, was still waiting in the pages he hadn't read yet. Ethan Miller was no longer the boy who sat invisible in the back of the class. Something inside him had shifted. Each day, his confidence grew, small steps, but real ones. He still wasn't loud or popular, but people noticed him now. They looked at him differently, as if they wanted to hear what he might say next. And Ethan, for the first time in his life, began to feel that his words mattered. It all started with small moments. In history class, when the teacher asked a difficult question, Ethan raised his hand and answered. In group projects, he shared his ideas instead of staying silent. His classmates listened, some even nodding in agreement. Emma Carter was always nearby, encouraging him. She cheered his little victories with quiet smiles that made his heart race. "See," she told him one afternoon. "I told you, you have a voice people need to hear." Her faith in him was something he never wanted to lose. But not everyone celebrated Ethan's change. Jason Reed watched from the sidelines, his jealousy growing. For years, Jason had been the center of attention. He was captain of the basketball team, popular with almost everyone. But now, he saw Emma laughing with Ethan under the tree, saw classmates actually clapping when Ethan spoke, and it burned him inside. One day in class, Mrs. Anderson assigned a short speech about courage. Students were to stand in front of everyone and speak for 2 minutes. For most, it was just another assignment. But for Ethan, it was a test. He carried the book with him, hidden in his bag. The night before, he had read another hidden note in faded ink at the corner of a page. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to speak despite it. Those words stuck in his mind as he stood at the front of the classroom, his hands shaking. He looked at the rows of eyes staring at him, some curious, some doubtful, and Jason's filled with disdain. Taking a breath, Ethan spoke. "At first, I thought courage meant being strong, or being loud. But I think real courage is when you keep going, even when you're scared. Sometimes courage is just raising your hand, or saying something when you think no one will listen. And sometimes," his voice softened, "courage is believing in yourself when the world doesn't." The class was silent for a moment. Then applause filled the room. Some students even stood up, clapping harder. Ethan's chest swelled with something he had never felt before, pride. But Jason, sitting in the back with his arms crossed, smirked. When the class ended, he muttered loudly, "Not bad for a kid hiding behind a dusty old book." The word stung, but Emma quickly cut in. "Jealousy doesn't look good on you, Jason." Jason's jaw tightened, but he walked away. That evening, Ethan sat at his desk, staring at the book. Why did it seem to know exactly what he needed at the right moment? Every hidden note appeared just when his heart was weakest. He flipped through more pages, searching carefully. At first, nothing new appeared. But then, near the back, he found another faded line. "The one who carries these words will carry more than his own voice. He will carry others with him." Ethan leaned back, his heart racing. What did that mean? Was he supposed to lead? Inspire? The thought scared him as much as it excited him. The very next day, his words began spreading further than he imagined. Mrs. Anderson asked Ethan to share some of his writing at the school assembly. Hundreds of students filled the gymnasium, talking and laughing until the microphone squealed. Ethan stood there, notebook in his hands, trembling again. Emma caught his eye in the crowd and mouthed, "You can do this." He opened his notebook and read. He spoke about kindness, about how small actions could change someone's whole day. He spoke about light, about how even in darkness, one person's words could shine. He didn't try to sound perfect, he just spoke honestly. When he finished, the applause was louder than anything he had ever heard in his life. Students cheered, teachers clapped, and even the principal nodded with respect. Ethan's face burned, but this time, it wasn't with shame, it was with joy. After the assembly, students he barely knew came up to him. They shook his hand, told him his words inspired them. A girl even said, "I was having a hard time, but what you said, it helped." Ethan walked away in awe. Could his words really make such a difference? But as his heart soared, Jason's anger deepened. That night, Jason told his friends, "This won't last. I'll make sure of it." Ethan didn't know it yet, but Jason was already planning to humiliate him in front of the whole school. Meanwhile, Mrs. Anderson watched Ethan closely. She knew the book was working. But she also knew the boy's journey had only just begun. Ethan, still holding the book close, whispered to himself that night, "I don't know where this is taking me. But I'm not afraid anymore." And for the first time in his life, he truly meant it. The weeks after Ethan's speech at the school assembly were unlike anything he had ever known. People he had never spoken to before now greeted him in the hallways. Some asked him for advice, others simply thanked him for his words. For the first time, Ethan Miller wasn't invisible. But with the light came shadows. Jason Reed's anger grew each day. He had always been the one people admired, the one who stood in the spotlight. But now, all anyone seemed to talk about was Ethan, the quiet boy with the notebook who somehow captured Emma's attention and the school's respect. Jason wasn't going to let that last. One Friday afternoon, while Ethan was at his locker, Jason and two of his friends cornered him. "Hey, poet boy," Jason sneered. "Got any more pretty words for us?" Ethan froze, clutching his books to his chest. "Leave me alone, Jason." Jason smirked and yanked the notebook from Ethan's hands. He flipped through the pages, his eyes narrowing when he saw Emma's name written in one of Ethan's poems. Well, Jason said loudly, waving the notebook in the air. "Looks like our little writer boy thinks he's in love." Students passing by stopped to watch. Laughter rippled through the hallway. Ethan's face burned with shame. Before Jason could read more, Emma appeared. Her voice was sharp. "Give it back, Jason." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Why? Don't you want to hear what he wrote about you?" Emma stepped closer, her eyes flashing with anger. "I said, give it back." For a moment, Jason held her gaze, then tossed the notebook onto the floor. Fine. But don't forget, Miller, you'll never be more than a joke. He walked off, his friends snickering behind him. Ethan knelt to pick up his notebook, his hands shaking. He wanted to disappear, to crawl back into the shadows where no one could laugh at him again. Emma touched his shoulder gently. Hey, don't listen to him. He's just scared. Scared of what? Ethan asked bitterly. Of you, Emma said simply. Because you're becoming something he can't be. Her words stayed with him, but so did Jason's laughter. That night, Ethan sat at his desk, staring at the book. His chest felt heavy. Maybe Jason was right. Maybe he was just a joke pretending to be something more. He opened the book, flipping through the pages desperately, searching for strength. At first, nothing new appeared. Then, under the lamplight, faint letters slowly revealed themselves in the margin of one page. When the world tries to break you, remember, you are not alone. Ethan's eyes stung. The words felt like they had been written just for him, at that exact moment. He wiped his tears and whispered, I'm not alone. The next day, Emma found him sitting under the tree with his notebook. She sat down beside him without asking. Are you okay? She asked softly. I don't know, Ethan admitted. Part of me wants to give up. To stop writing. To stop speaking. It's easier to stay invisible. Emma looked at him with sadness. Then she took his hand gently. Ethan, don't you see? You're not invisible anymore. And I don't mean because of your speeches or the applause. I mean because you finally let the world see you. And I see you. The real you. Don't let Jason take that away. Her hand in his felt steady, warm. In that moment, Ethan realized something. Emma wasn't just supporting him. She believed in him in a way he had never believed in himself. Later that week, Mrs. Anderson announced that the city was hosting a student event where young voices could share ideas in front of hundreds of people. She encouraged Ethan to sign up. The thought made his stomach twist. Speaking in front of his school was one thing. But speaking in front of the entire city? That felt impossible. But Emma looked at him with that same steady faith. You can do this, Ethan. Your words can reach more than just this school. They can reach hearts everywhere. For a moment, he wanted to say no. He wanted to hide. But then he remembered the book's words, you are not alone. He took a deep breath and said, okay. I'll do it. The decision both terrified and excited him. He knew Jason wouldn't sit quietly, he would try again to tear him down. But Ethan also knew he wasn't the same boy he used to be. He had the book. He had Emma. And most of all, he had found his own voice. Still, as he lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, one question echoed in his mind. Was he really ready to stand before the world? The city event arrived on a cold Saturday morning. The auditorium was huge, filled with rows and rows of chairs, bright lights, and a stage that made Ethan's knees feel weak just looking at it. Hundreds of people were already seated: students, parents, teachers, and even local leaders. Ethan sat backstage with his notebook in his lap and the old book resting beside him. His hands trembled as he tried to steady his breathing. He wasn't just speaking in front of classmates this time. He was speaking to strangers, people who didn't know him, people who could easily judge him. For a moment, he thought about running. His heart pounded so loud it drowned out the noise of the audience. Then Emma slipped backstage, her presence like a calm wave washing over his fear. You're shaking, she said softly. I can't do this, Ethan whispered. Emma knelt in front of him, taking his hands in hers. Yes, you can. You've been preparing for this without even knowing it. Every page you've written, every word you've spoken, it was leading here. You're ready, Ethan. He searched her eyes and saw no doubt, only belief. Slowly, He nodded. When his name was called, Ethan stepped onto the stage. The bright lights blinded him at first, and the sea of faces blurred together. He gripped his notebook tightly, but then he remembered the hidden messages in the old book, the words that always appeared when he needed them most. You are not alone. He looked out into the audience. Somewhere out there, Emma was watching. Mrs. Anderson too. He wasn't alone. Taking a deep breath, he began. At one time, I thought I had nothing worth sharing. I was quiet, invisible, just another face in the crowd. But then I realized sometimes, the quietest voices carry the deepest truths. Sometimes, courage is not about being the loudest. It's about daring to speak at all. His voice trembled at first, but as he continued, strength filled his words. He spoke about kindness, the way small acts could ripple through the world. He spoke about hope, that even when everything seemed dark, one person's light could guide others. And he spoke about love, not just romantic love, but the kind of love that sees someone's heart and believes in it, even when they don't believe in themselves. As he spoke, the auditorium grew quiet, the kind of silence that meant every single person was listening. When he finished, he closed his notebook slowly. For a moment, the silence held. Then applause erupted, louder than anything he had ever heard. People rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, some even wiping tears from their eyes. Ethan's chest swelled. He had done it. After the event, Emma ran to him, throwing her arms around him. You were incredible, she whispered. You didn't just speak, Ethan. You touched people. You changed them. Mrs. Anderson joined them, her eyes glistening with pride. I knew you could do it, she said. Ethan held up the old book. Mrs. Anderson, why me? Why give me this? She smiled softly, placing a hand on the book. Because when I was your age, someone gave it to me. And just like you, I was scared, invisible, unsure of myself. That book helped me find my voice. And I knew the day would come when I'd see the same fire in one of my students. That student was you. Ethan's eyes widened. So, the notes inside. The hidden words. Mrs. Anderson's smile deepened. Those messages appear to those who are ready to see them. They're not magic, Ethan. They're a reflection of what's already inside you. The book doesn't give you strength, it helps you recognize the strength you already have. Ethan looked down at the worn cover, his chest tightening with emotion. The book wasn't just a gift. It was a torch, passed from one person to the next. He looked at Emma, then back at Mrs. Anderson. Then I'll keep it safe. And one day, I'll pass it on too. Mrs. Anderson nodded proudly. That's all I ever hoped for. That evening, Ethan walked out of the auditorium with Emma by his side. The city lights glowed above them, and for the first time, the world didn't feel too big for him. It felt open, like a canvas waiting for him to leave his mark. Emma slipped her hand into his. So, world changer, she teased, what's next? Ethan smiled, gripping the book under his arm. Next? I keep writing. I keep speaking. And maybe I help others see they're not invisible either. Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. I'll be right here, cheering for you. And as they walked together into the night, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The book had given him a spark, but it was his own heart and the people who believed in him that turned it into a fire. A fire that was ready to change the world.